In this chapter, Laozi talked about duality and the concept of Wu Wei, and he might have played a trick on his readers. Laozi says, quote, "When the whole world knows what's beautiful, that's when it becomes ugly. When the whole world knows what's kind, that's when it becomes unkind. Therefore, being and non-being create each other, difficult and easy complete each other, long and short define each other, high and low tilt towards each other, voice and sound give harmony to each other, before and after give direction to each other." End quote. There is duality in everything, high and low, long and short, beautiful and ugly. And there is also unity in everything. Duality is in the language we speak, and unity is always a mystery. If you go to the extreme on one end of the duality, you risk ending up on the other end. Duality comes from unity, just as the reality comes from the mystery in chapter 1. Duality is on show, and unity is hidden. The way modern propaganda works is a good way to explain this. Say there's a conflict between two nations. Either side will provide their people with a talking point. They'll tell you the other side is evil and ugly and bad and all that, to explain why our side is in the right and the other is wrong. That's the duality on show. If you believe any of these, it makes your blood boil. It makes you want to take actions. That's why duality is so useful. The more one-sided it sounds, the more impact it will make. But eventually the two nations will come to a negotiation table, and they will sign a deal. And if the world is lucky, it might even do that without a war. Then all the evil, and the bad, and the unforgivable sins are suddenly forgotten. They are partners now. That is the hidden unity. Enemy and friend are a duality, but it can often be the same guy as the unity. Another example is the Chinese farmer who lost his horse. When the farmer lost his horse, all of his neighbors said to him, "Oh, that's so unfortunate." The farmer said, "Maybe." Then the horse came back, and it brought another horse with it. All of his neighbors said, "Oh, you're so lucky." The farmer said, "Maybe." When the farmer's son tried to ride the wild horse and broke his leg, all of his neighbors said, "Oh, that's so unfortunate." The farmer said, "Maybe." When the conscription officers came to recruit soldiers, since his son broke his leg, he spared of being sent to war. The moral of the story is, you will never fully understand the consequences of an event. The event is the unity, and whether it's a fortunate or an unfortunate one, is the duality. With these in mind, how should a person act, you might wonder. Laozi gives his answer in the following paragraph. Laozi says, quote, "That's why the wise master acts without controlling things, teaches without saying things, just as the 10,000 living things of the world take on 10,000 different shapes and forms, but never utter a single word. They live but don't exist. They act but don't possess. So when the wise master accomplishes his task, he leaves. Because he leaves, his accomplishment stays." End quote. The wise master, or Shengren, is an idealistic man for the ancient Chinese, someone everyone could aspire to be, but no one could ever achieve it. Laozi introduced the concept of Wu Wei here for the first time. There are many ways to translate this concept: not controlling, not trying, not forcing, etc. In Chinese, Wu means no, Wei means action. So a true to the text translation is non-action, although it doesn't make much sense by itself in English. It means allowing things to happen and taking actions spontaneously, without forcing or controlling its development. At its core, Wu Wei is deeply on a par with the unity in duality, because our knowledge, experience, values, and desires tend to bring us to one side of the duality, hence we'll miss the whole picture. Some might criticize Wu Wei as being passive or being an excuse for laziness, But just as a wise master will never walk the earth, true Wu Wei will never exist. It's an idealization, good for us to offset our natural tendency toward going further and further into one side of a duality. It helps us remember what's in front of us is never the full picture. An obsession over Wu Wei in life is also a Wei, and it's the opposite of Wu Wei. In many ways, Wu Wei is unity. That means it's constantly changing its manifestation between two opposite sides. On the one end is human will force, a defiance towards the world. It's the Greek king who cheated death, pushing a boulder up the mountain for all eternity. On the other end is the absolute silence of the universe. Somewhere in the middle is you and me. Wu Wei is us and life. Will never be as fulfilled as a god and will never be truly empty. Wu Wei is not something we could attain, it's something we'll never lose, but doesn't always have access to. In fact, the more ambitious you are, the more Wu Wei is important to you and to the world. It's in a hunter's patience when they allow their prey to walk closer and closer. It's in a dancer's movement when they allow their body to follow the rhythm. It's every moment of our lives when we could allow our spontaneous action to take its own course. As Bruce Lee describes it, non-action or Wu Wei does not mean no action, but no such action as begets opposition. Right action is neither to oppose nor to give way, but to be pliable as a reed in the wind. There's a reason why so many sportsmen and martial artists love the idea of Wu Wei. It's the natural state of things for them. Mind and body have to move with instinct. Any kind of thinking or worrying creates instant failure. But what if we're trying to study a subject, or to finish a task at work, or to create a business? It takes planning and execution, and months or even years of effort to complete. Here, Wu Wei is also a necessary mindset, just as it takes years of grinding for martial artists to achieve the kind of muscle memory they need for their kicks and punches. A businessman's grinding happens every moment of his work. When the future is uncertain, the more spontaneous, the more aware you are, the more immersion you have in every moment of your work, the more likely success is going to happen. And remember, every action creates opposition. Know when the task is complete, and don't hesitate to leave it behind, as the wise master does, so as to allow it to go on its own path without you creating trouble for yourself and ruining your own efforts. On the final note of the chapter, Laozi played a trick on us. There is one important duality Laozi didn't mention in this chapter. In fact, it might just be the most important one. Please bear with me for a second here. I'll give you another translation, a more accurate one, but a whole lot more confusing. Quote, "That is why the wise master acts without controlling things, teaches without saying things, just as the 10,000 living things of the world take on 10,000 different shapes and forms, but never utter a single word, living but not existing, acting but not possessing, not staying after the task is complete. Because of not staying, it's not leaving." It's not just confusing in English, it's also confusing in classical Chinese. Laozi left out all the subjects in the last 4 sentences. You don't know who or what he's talking about. Is it the wise master or is it the 10,000 living things? Which is it? Now why does he do that? Why does he confuse us? Because there's another duality necessary for us to know, and it might just be the most important duality there is. The duality of self and non-self. The duality of us and nature. And by forgetting to mention the logically important component of a subject, he reminds us the unity in that duality. The wise master and the 10,000 living things are only the two sides of the same thing.